How's it going, Laser Bruce's up, Bobby Sixkilla, and welcome back to Shinrai, Broken Beyond Despair. Let's just continue from where we left off and cut the gaff, shall we? Let's just get in. No, wait, it worked. It actually worked. The door was open. It was finally open. Only by a tiny gap, but still. We almost have it. Let's give it another shot. Alright. One more time, the two of them stepped back and threw themselves against the sturdy metal opponent with everything they had. If we're lucky, we're gonna save the pervert man. Unfortunately, it didn't really do anything this time. The gap got bigger, but not by much. And no matter how many more times I tried after that, it wouldn't move another inch. Well, I guess that's as far as it goes. Damn it. So the door was never locked. It's jammed. Something's blocking it from the other side. But what? And what do we do about it? And do you smell that? Doesn't that kind of smell like gasoline? Oh yeah, there was gasoline in there. Now that they mentioned it, I noticed it too. The faint scent of gasoline hung in the air. It was coming through the small gap inside the breaker room. Together with... Is that smoke? Samashi-san is right. There's smoke coming from the gap. Indeed it was. A cloud of thin, fog-like smoke began accumulating in front of the door. Still rubbing his shoulder with one hand and using the other to cover his mouth, Taiko stepped closer and tried peeking through the gap in the breaker room. Smoke and the scent of gasoline. They could only mean one thing. Fire. There's a fire inside. What? What about Kotoba then? He in there? Can you see him? Yeah, I think I can. He's not moving though. No. Is he at least safe from the fire? He's surrounded by it. You don't think he... Damn it! If only the goddamn door would open. Taiko tried forcing the door open again, but to no avail. It was pointless. Whatever was blocking it from the other side just didn't want to give in. Curses, there had to be something we could do. And we had to do it fast. It was possible that Kotoba was only unconscious due to the smoke and heat. But if we waited any longer, No, I neither wanted to think that far, nor did I have the time to do so. We had to find a way to get inside. The door was obviously out of the question, but there was another way. Right. Yes? Is there a fire extinguisher nearby? Of course. But it won't do us any good as long as we can't get through that door. We don't need to. There's another way. Huh? What do you mean? The window. What you talking about? The window's locked. We checked it earlier, remember? Yeah, she's right. And it can only be opened from the inside. Well, both of them were kinda right, but... Like the door was never locked to begin with? What? It was never locked? So you mean there's just something blocking it on the other side? Probably. Maybe. I think. In any case, it's at least worth a try checking it out. She's right. We can forget the door, so the window is the only chance we have left. Well, I guess that's true. Let's check out the window then. And don't forget a fire extinguisher. Right. We can get one from the reception. You guys stay here. If we manage to get inside, I'll see what I can do about the door. Be careful, you two. We will. Anywho, let's go. Wait, I'm coming too. What? Forget it. That's too dangerous. There's no time to argue. Let's just go. He didn't seem happy, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't stop me from simply running after them, and there was no time to try and talk me out of it. On the contrary, Kotoba's life was in danger, so we had to get to that window as fast as possible. Oh shit, yeah, take the shortcut in food storage. Alright. And with that, Taiko, Rai and I began to move, while the others stayed behind. We quickly rushed to the food storage. There we used the staircase to the kitchen upstairs. A pretty good shortcut to get to the dining hall in a flash. In this case, it didn't really help us much though. Our destination was the main entrance, so whether we ran down to the basement corridor and used the stairs on the other end, or the shortcut to the dining hall and headed to a reception from there, didn't make much of a difference. Either way was the exact same distance. A staircase plus an entire hallway. Anyway, once we reached the reception, Rai quickly unlocked it. She grabbed the fire extinguisher from behind the counter and rushed over to the main gates to unlock them as well. Once they were open, we spilled out into the cold night. The breaker room window was basically on the other side of the building. That meant that we had quite some distance to cover, so we continued running at full speed. I had a hard time keeping up with Rai and Taiko. Unlike theirs, my stamina was almost entirely depleted after all the previous running tonight. That wasn't a reason for me to give up. especially not when the life of one of my classmates was in danger. So one more time I gave it everything I had, pushing this fragile body to its limits. There it is. Rai handed the fire extinguisher to Taiko and crouched down in front of the window. She grabbed the metal cover with both hands and slowly tried lifting it up. And it worked. The window was unlocked. She could open it. As though it had been desperately waiting for its chance to escape, a thick cloud of black smoke immediately came streaming outside, causing Rai to almost drop the cover again. She managed to keep it lifted, however, as she shot up to her feet and moved to the side of the window, letting the smoke blow past her. Taiko and I broke into a series of coughs as it entered our lungs. Covering our mouths and turning our heads away, we quickly backed off until it started to thin out a little due to the cold mountain breeze. While Rai kept holding the cover, Taiko began moving towards it, carrying the fire extinguisher under one arm while wildly waving around the other. Can you see Kotoba? Yeah, I can see him. Is he alright? Time to find out. I'm going in. What? Taiko? Wait! Of course, Rai's attempt to stop him was futile. Taiko had already climbed inside. When I saw that, I didn't want to stand there doing nothing, so I completely ignoring Rai's objections, I followed him and slipped through the window myself. The first thing I noticed after entering the break room was obviously the incredible heat. After having been exposed to the freezing mountain air only a moment ago, this sudden rather drastic change in temperature made me feel kind of dizzy. The penetrating stench of gasoline didn't help much either. Nor did the fact that the entire room was naturally filled with smoke, making it very hard to breathe. Keeping my mouth covered with my cardigan, I was taking as few breaths as possible while fighting the urge to cough. A much bigger problem, however, was my limited field of vision. Despite those bright flickering flames, huge parts of the break room were still drenched in darkness, all due to the lack of electricity. Fortunately though, the area around the breaker box was safe. And since it was right next to the window, I immediately turned towards it and switched the lights back on. Alright, that's that. Good work. That's one problem gone. Now to take care of that fire. The moment those words left his mouth, Taiko stepped forward, holding the hose of the fire extinguisher in his right hand and using the left to hold the pressure vessel at its grip. He immediately got to work. Thankfully, there weren't too many flammable objects around, so the fire hadn't spread that far yet. It was mostly concentrated in the center of the room. As Taiko did his best to contain it and subdue the ravaging flames, I stayed directly behind him, frantically throwing my gaze left and right. The cause for all of this was clear. There was an empty gasoline canister lying below the window. Judging from the burn marks left on the concrete, someone had spilled its contents across the floor, creating trails throughout the room. After getting ignited from the window, those trails had led to a fire to the shelves and various other objects scattered about, all of them covered in gasoline, including Kotoba. Oh. I guess he's not okay then. It was a horrible sight. The fire had long reached his body, setting his clothes ablaze. The gluttonous flames were slowly eating away at his hair and skin, turning it black. It was only now that I noticed the disgusting smell of burning human flesh in the air. With just a single glance, I could tell we were too late. He was already dead. While Taiko began spraying foam all around his friend, trying to stop the fire from devouring him even further, I noticed that one of Kotoba's hands was tied to the copper pipes next to him. So that's why he hadn't been able to escape this place. Someone had tied him up here. And not only that, there was a steel pipe lying on the floor right in front of him. It was covered in blood, just like his forehead. In other words, he'd been knocked out first. When we heard him earlier, he must have temporarily regained consciousness and done the only thing he'd been able to do. Cry for help. Kotoba. I couldn't believe it. So we lost another one of our friends, and in such a horrible way. Just how could anyone have done this to him? Leaving him here like that, to burn alive. Taiko must have realized himself that it was too late to save his friend now. Nevertheless, he kept fighting the fire, trying to eradicate it completely. Damn, I can't do this alone. We need another fire extinguisher. There should be another one down here. I'm gonna get it and help you. Right? What the hell are you doing in here? You think I'm just gonna wait outside while the two of you risk your lives? Anyway, you focus on the fire. We'll take care of the rest. Raika-chan. Yeah? Come, help me. We gotta do something about the door. Right, the door. Now that we were inside the break room, I could finally see what was blocking it. The massive closet that had originally been next to the door was now directly in front of it. It was positioned at such an angle that whenever you tried to open the door, it pushed the closet against the copper pipes coming out of the floor. The closet was literally stuck between the pipes and the door, leaving barely any space for the ladder to open. Rai and I quickly rushed over to take care of the problem. While I grabbed the closet from one side and pulled, Rai pushed from the other. Alright, it's unblocked. I'm gonna get the other fire extinguisher and be right back. Okay, Raiko-chan. Now you're gonna help me here for a sec. Of course. Huh? Without losing another word, Taiko handed me the fire extinguisher and signaled me to continue spraying the flames in his stead. It was quite heavy and I had no idea what he was up to, but I gave him a resolute nod and did my best to keep the fire in check. In the meantime, he jumped over to Kotoba and tried to remove the ropes, keeping his wrists tied to the copper pipes. It took him a moment, but once he was done, he heaved his friend over his shoulder and quickly carried him over to the door. Once he put Kotoba on the floor in front of the others, who were standing there watching in shock, he immediately rushed back to my side. Okay, and now out with you. What? I suddenly felt Taiko's hands grabbing my hips from behind. With no effort at all, he lifted me up in the air and carried me over to the entrance. There he put me down again, right next to the others. While I was still trying to figure out what had happened, he snagged the fire extinguisher from my hands, spun around and headed back to the room. Just then, Rai came rushing past us carrying another fire extinguisher under her arm. Took you long enough. If you start complaining again about how unreliable I am, I'm gonna smack you. Let's just show this fire who's boss. Alright. Completely speechless, the others and I watched as Rai and Taiko were fighting the fire with their combined strength. Back to back, surrounded by bright flames. Despite how dangerous this was, however, Rai didn't seem too concerned. Not about the fire, at least. By the way, I'm sorry about before. What? You know, when I yelled at you after you brought up the whole murder thing. It's just that... Come on, Rai. This isn't the time for that. I know, but... No. There's nothing to apologize for anyway. Huh? Listen, I know you well enough by now to expect that kind of reaction from you. You just want to trust and believe in your friends. And there's nothing wrong with that. On the contrary, that's one of the parts I always liked about you the most. So you see, no reason to apologize for that. I see. Thanks. Anywho, this is not the right time for this. We can talk about it later. Right now, we need to focus. You know this is dangerous, right? I guess it is. Then why the hell are you laughing? Because you're here with me. So I have nothing to worry about, right? Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. And you don't have anything to worry about either. Because I got your back. So let's finish this. Right on. Slowly but steadily, the two of them managed to fend off the flames. The fire just didn't stand a chance against the power of their teamwork. Before long, it was gone. And only smoke remained. Even that gradually faded away, however, once Rai had opened the window again. With both the fire and the smoke taken care of, all of us breathed a deep sigh of relief. Looks like we did it. Yeah, we did. The two of them began to smile, as did Mika, Bara-chan, Runa and I when they looked at us. It was truly a moment of happiness. But alas, it was rather short-lived. The grim reality quickly caught up with us and our gazes slid down to the floor in front of the breaker room. Down to Kotoba. There was no need to check for a pulse or anything. He was dead. If I hadn't known that this charred corpse was Kotoba, I wouldn't have recognized him. With the skin turned black and all shriveled up, he was burned almost beyond recognition. The sight of it, the stench, it made me feel sick. Unable to look at his still steaming body any longer, I lifted my gaze and directed it at Taiko. He was grinding his teeth, despair, sadness and fury all mixed together on his face, distorting it in a way I'd never seen before. He fought hard to hold back tears, but it was useless. Some of them had already escaped from the corners of his eyes, drawing shining lines across his cheeks. First Momoko, then Hiro, and now Kotoba? Why? Just why did this have to happen? That goddamn fool! Why'd he have to leave? Why can't he just stay with me? What the hell were you doing down here? You idiot! Taiko. Damn it, I'm the idiot, aren't I? I should have stopped him. I should have followed him. He's been here all along. I didn't want to believe it, but now it was obvious from the start. I should have just kept trying to get him to open the door or... Come on, stop it. This isn't your fault. You couldn't have known that this was going to happen. None of us could have. And bringing up what-if scenarios is just pointless as blaming yourself. It's not going to change the facts. Let's just call for help now, okay? The power's back on, so we can finally make phone calls again. So, does that mean it's finally over? No, not yet. Huh? Carmen. Carmen's still missing. We need to find her. And then she's gonna pay. Everyone fell dead silent. Carmen. It was true. She was the last member of our group unaccounted for. And considering the circumstances, she's the only one who could have done this to Kotoba. After escaping through the guest room window on the second floor, she must have headed to the breaker room window and somehow gotten Kotoba to let her inside. Then she knocked him out and started the fire. That seemed to be the only explanation for what had happened here. So I guess there was a chance that she was still nearby? Why would she do all of this though? Did she hate Katoba that much? Or was there another reason? Although I guess there was no point in thinking about it right now. First we had to find her. And then we could hear everything from herself. The question just was, where exactly was she now? Haku? Did everyone hear that just now? Huh? Hear what? I didn't hear it. Oh, please, no, not again. What are you talking about? I didn't hear a thing. Mika, I swear to God, you better be mistaken. I'm going to rip your ears off. Haku? Everyone aimed their eyes at Mika. Apparently no one else had heard a thing, so we were all hoping that she was going to tell us. She just imagined it this time. But of course, things weren't that simple. Wait, I think I heard something too. And unfortunately, so would I. A scream. A muffled, distant scream. You gotta be kidding me. What the heck's going on now? Will we ever get a break? That had to be Aika-san. But why would she scream like that indeed? Kinda got the feeling that I didn't even want to know the answer. Nevertheless, I took off down the hallway without hesitation. Somehow I knew exactly where I was going to find Carmen. I could hear one of the others following me, but I didn't turn around to see who it was. Instead, I concentrated on mobilizing what little energy I had left in my legs to rush upstairs. It was time to finally put an end to all of this. When I reached the second floor hallway, it was brightly illuminated, making it quite easy to spot Carmen. She was sitting in the center of the corridor, cowering on all fours, staring at one of the guest rooms. I heard footsteps coming from behind and threw my gaze over my shoulder to see Taiko. We exchanged a quick glance before our attention was drawn to Carmen again. Despair clawed itself deep in her expression, squeezing tears out of her eyes as she hammered her fists on the floor. Once again, she didn't seem to notice us as we moved towards her. She was too fixated on that accursed guest room, the very same one that had already presented us with so much grief tonight. Why? Why did things have to turn out like this? Oh, Momo. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She continued muttering to herself, more and more tears streaming down her cheeks. When Taiko moved up to her, I could see the anger, hate, and disdain for Carmen burning in his eyes. However, when he turned his head to see what she was staring at so intently at, all of it vanished, instantly getting replaced by pure raw shock. I balled my hands up into fists, bracing myself for whatever awaited me this time. At this point, nothing should have shocked me anymore. Nevertheless, I found myself wearing the exact same expression as Taiko, as I laid my eyes upon that horrifying sight. Yes, we knew that was there. There they were. Our two missing corpses, Hiro and Momoka. While Taiko stayed behind to take care of Carmen, I reluctantly moved into the room. Part of me didn't want to, but it was overpowered by the curiosity of another. Wanted to take a closer look, it forced me to go on, until I stood directly in front of their lifeless bodies. Despite having seen them like this before, the sight was just as disturbing as the first time. No, that wasn't quite right. It was even worse, because this time I could see everything perfectly. No obstructions, no veil of darkness. I could see every little disgusting detail. I gulped hard and noticed my heartbeat increase as I focused my eyes on Momoka. She was hanging there from the ceiling like a doll, only held by a single string. The expression scarring her face was a testament to the suffering she'd endured during her final moments, to the desperate struggle for air as the noose had tightened around her neck, slowly strangling her to death. Her eyes were covered by her hair, but just seeing that gaping mouth with the tongue hanging out was more than I could bear, although it was nothing compared to Hiro. Similar to Momoka, his expression was frozen into unimaginable pain and anguish. There was so much blood everywhere, soaking his clothes, and the tatami mats beneath him. It seeped from the countless slit-like wounds, covering his entire body, almost as though someone had taken a knife and stabbed him over and over and over in a mad rage. As a matter of fact, the one that had been buried deeply in his throat was gone, revealing a horrifying mess of torn flesh. It looked like the blade had been twisted around multiple times before finally being removed in order to mutilate the rest of his body. I suddenly noticed a weird feeling inside my stomach. Like a ball made of lead had formed inside my abdomen, rolling around, dragging my body down, and threatening to crush my thin legs under its weight. The sight was absolutely nauseating. It made me feel sick to the point like I felt like throwing up. I tried to resist the urge to gag and wanted to avert my eyes, but I couldn't. I didn't have any control over my body anymore. My subconscious had taken over and forced me to keep looking, so that this gruesome image would burn itself into my memory for all eternity. Eventually I did manage to close my eyes and slowly regain my composure. I took another deep breath to calm down and pull myself together. There was still something left to do, even though it wasn't going to be easy. I needed to examine this room very carefully, as well as the bodies. Maybe here I would be able to find the remaining pieces of the puzzle required to fully understand what had happened. I needed to know. I wanted to know, and I couldn't wait for the police to arrive. I had to figure the truth out now. This whole tragedy involved my classmates after all. Yes, it was time to get to the bottom of this. And I wasn't going to rest until I've inspected every suspicious looking nook and cranny. Alright, it's time for an investigation. Oh my god. There's a lot here. A pair of black leather gloves. I'm pretty sure the hero was wearing some earlier tonight. Considering he isn't now, it's quite likely those are his. What are they doing here though? And is there blood on them? So this is what was used to kill Hero. There's still some blood on it, even on the handle. It's stuck in the floor, but it wasn't forcefully buried in there. I guess it was simply dropped here after the deed was done. There's a drawer here with a total of 8 compartments. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be anything of interest in any of them. Looks like the drawer was moved, though. There are traces of on the tatami floor indicating that someone pushed it aside. Very interesting. Okay. The ceiling lights are already turned on, so there's no reason to fool around with the switches. Unless I want the extra difficulty for my investigation. An intercom, most likely used to call for room service. On closer inspection, there seems to be some blood on the speaker button. Interesting. I wonder how it got there. Maybe I should try using the intercom. I guess as long as I don't wipe the blood away or leave a fingerprint on it, it should be fine. So let's see. Hello? Anyone there? No response. Well, not that I actually expected one. Still, someone tried using the intercom tonight. There must be a reason for that. This time I made sure to check the number plate beneath the accursed Halloween sign. This is definitely room 209, no doubt about it. I closed the door in order to spare Carmen the horrifying sight of her best friend hanging there like that, as well as to see if there's anything of interest behind it. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. Hydrangea macrophilia, also called Argisai or Hortensia. This flower is usually associated with Tsuyu, the rainy season. It's quite beautiful. These here are fake though. Guess someone didn't want to worry about them withering. There's a scroll hanging on the wall here. Something written on it in old Japanese. O brave soul courageous enough to rest in this haunted chamber, heed these words. Should you encounter ghostly apparitions, seeking to unleash their unworldly wrath on you, use this camera to fend them off. What? So you can exorcise vengeful spirits by taking pictures of them with this camera, huh? Sounds like a load of nonsense, but I'm pretty sure Bara-chan would buy it. Actually, maybe I know what I'm going to get her for Christmas later this year. There's a couple of sitting cushions stacked here, also known as zabuton. Going with the resort's colour theme, they're all blue. There doesn't seem to be anything hidden beneath them though. That black piece of cloth must be Hero's cape. Doesn't look like it provides much of a clue though. I guess he just took it off and dropped it here at some point. A byobu, a partition or folding screen, sometimes referred to as a room divider. This one depicts a beautiful Argisai pattern, or hydrangea macrophilia if you want to get scientific, but I guess it's about all worth mentioning. There doesn't seem to be any clues hidden on or behind it. There's a katana displayed on the shelf. It's only a replica made of plastic though. The thin layer of dust in it tells me it hasn't been touched in a while, so it's safe to say that it doesn't bear any relevance to what happened here tonight. Is there anything else here? I think we can go to the next bit. The fun part. We'll go to the fun part. There's a big fat cat. Big fat grinning plush cat sitting on top of the closet. I have no idea why it's there, but I don't really care either. All I know is that I want it. Maybe there's something interesting in there. Let's check it out. Well, despite it being so big, there actually isn't much inside this closet. Just a bathrobe and another futon. Although, I guess that isn't too surprising. Its main purpose should be for the guests to put their clothes in there, so... The window I jumped through earlier, it's still open, letting the cold night breeze inside. Looking from here, the distance to the ground seems much bigger than I remember. Did I really climb down there? Just what the heck was I thinking? I didn't even want to imagine what might have happened if I'd lost hold of the rope. And speaking of the rope, it's actually not there anymore. It was this rope again, wasn't it? A flat glass table. Due to its low height, it requires you to sit on the floor. I can't remember seeing it before. I guess it's next to invisible when the lights are out. In any case, there's a candle placed on top of it. Considering the amount of molten wax glued to the surface, it must be standing there for quite a while before its flame extinguished. That's also what appears to be a sandal marks on it. Interestingly enough, the forefoot left much clearer prints than the rest of the foot. It's weird to think this wasn't cleaned up by the resort staff, so I'm assuming the candle, as well as the sandal prints, must have been left here rather recently. That's interesting. A potted plant is sitting in the corner. It's a slender palm lily, or Cordyline stricta, if you prefer the scientific name. I don't, because it's hard to say. The poor thing looks like it looks a little swollen. Whoever watered it went a little overboard, it seems. There's an alcove here with a hanging scroll. The scroll depicts a beautifully painted dragon surrounded by 7 crystal balls. Dragon Ball? A little monkey boy with spiky hair is riding on its head? Oh my god, it's Goku. They seriously use these kind of scrolls as decorations here? It's Goku! There's a big fluffy futon here. Looking at it reminds me of how tired I actually am. Unfortunately, I can't allow myself to rest just yet. Not that I'd like to do so in this room of all places anyway. Yeah, no. Hero. It's really hard to look at him without feeling nauseous. All that blood, those wounds. Seeing all that made me feel really weird and uncomfortable. It was almost as though, out of sympathy, my subconscious decided to let me feel prick-like pains all across my body, as well as sharp pains slicing across my throat when I look at this. It was really strange how your own body reacted to the sight of these kinds of images, but not nearly as strange as death itself. It was hard to believe that this lifeless body in front of me, that had been moving just hours ago, filled with life, with a soul, and now was just lying here, motionlessly, never to move a muscle again. I never really liked Hero, but I certainly would never wish anything like this to happen to him. It was strange anyway. Why was his body mutilated in such a way? Ramming the knife into his throat would have been enough to kill him, and I was pretty sure that I hadn't seen any other wounds on his body when Baro-chan, Rai, and I discovered him earlier. So why would anyone continue stabbing a dead body like this? Out of pure resentment? Or was there maybe another reason for it? In any case, there didn't seem to be anything else out of place, and I didn't want to look at him any longer than necessary, so I decided to turn away and examine something else. Before that, however, I crouched down next to his head. I knew I shouldn't mess with the crime scene in any way, but I simply couldn't stand the horrifying expression on his face any longer. Even a corpse had the right to retain some dignity. So with great care, I moved my hand across his eyes and shut his lids. Sleep well, Hero. May you forever rest in peace. Momoka. To think that this cute and shy girl who'd been so nice to me earlier tonight, that she was no more. That all that was left of her was this lifeless shell hanging in front of me. It was just too cruel. Getting strangled to death was a slow process. I didn't even want to imagine how she must have suffered before she died. Such a horrible way to go. We never had much to do with each other besides being classmates. Still, I kind of had a feeling that we could have been really good friends if only both of us hadn't been so introverted, which made it all the more tragic. I wanted to release her from this humiliating state and put her down on the futon at least, but I couldn't mess with the crime scene to such a degree. And I wasn't tall or strong enough to get her down anyway. So all I could do was leave her hanging there like this. With a heavy sigh, I stepped back a little to take a better look at her from a different angle. I couldn't see any wounds on her skin or bleeding through her clothes unless the blood was mixing with the fake one on her kimono. Considering that it wasn't damaged in the blood-covered areas, however, it didn't seem like she'd been attacked there. No, the cause of death really must have been suffocation. Speaking of damaged clothes though, her kimono actually was damaged. It was a bit hard to see due to the long sleeves, but when I carefully moved them out of the way, I could see that it was cut open on both sides, vertically along the legs. The cuts were quite clean, and too long to be an accident, so someone must have inflicted them on purpose. Probably with a knife or something. The question just was, why? There wasn't really anything else that struck me as odd, although there was still something bothering me, but I couldn't quite put a finger on it. Anyway, I felt kind of bad for examining her like this, so maybe it was time to stop disturbing her and take a look at something else. I could only hope that wherever she was right now, she was getting her eternal peace. I think we're out of shit to look at, aren't we? How do we know? Can we talk to someone? Momoka, why? Oh, Momo, I'm so sorry. Kama was still cowering on the floor, hugging her knees and burying her face into them. Taiko simply stood next to her, looking somewhat helpless as she continued shedding tears and mumbling to herself in that pitiful voice. Did she tell you anything? No, she's just repeating the same words over and over again. Not even sure she noticed me at all. I say, "Oh, Momo, Momo." Damn it, I was so mad at her for what she's done. As a matter of fact, I still am. I thought I'd wring her neck once I got my hands on her, but now, seeing her like this, I can't even bring myself to yell at her. Then again, we all know what an incredible actress she is, so maybe... Anywho, I'll be keeping my eyes on her. Gonna try and calm her down and see if I can get anything useful out of her. I guess you want to inspect that guest room a little more? Yeah. Alright. I'll be waiting here, but don't take too long. We should head back to the others soon. Okay. I turned around to head back inside the guest room. Before actually doing so, however, I threw another glance at Carmen. It was hard to believe that she was just acting, but I guess I couldn't rule it out. She was known to be one of the best actresses in our drama club had ever brought forth. Maybe she really was acting to avoid answering any of our questions. Then again, whether she was acting or not didn't really matter. The truth was something no one could escape from. I suppose. Well, I think we've explored everything. The door to room 209. We'll just go over everything once more to make sure. I can hear Taiko's muffled voice coming from the other side. He keeps asking various questions, but it doesn't seem like Carmen's in the condition to answer any of them. Okay. We should just exhaust the dialogue. Leather gloves are your heroes. The fingertips and palm areas have some blood on them. I guess it could only be his, but what does that exactly mean? After stabbing Hero multiple times, even though he should have already been dead, the culprit must have taken a distance look at their work and simply dropped the knife here. Probably a bad idea to leave my fingerprints on it, so I better not touch it. If I recall correctly, the room service is located on the 3rd floor next to the stairs. Maybe I should check it out. Ah. When I left the guest room, Carmen didn't show any reaction, but Taiko looked surprised. Especially when I told him I'd be back in a second, before suddenly rushing past him and toward the staircase. Once upstairs, I moved over to the room service, grabbed the door handle and... it opened. Well, wasn't that interesting? Unfortunately, I didn't really find anything of interest inside. The room was pretty small and seemed untouched. Then again, the fact that it was unlocked was curious enough. So, we had another unlocked room that should have been locked, huh? I had to talk about Rai about this later. However, for now, seeing as there was nothing else to find here, I decided to return to the 2nd floor. But not before taking some notes, of course. Now that is interesting. See, that was definitely worth doing. Looks like it's been moved. We already saw that. Vengeful spirits. Spend a night in a haunted room. I wonder if they have this for all the rooms or it's just an unfortunate coincidence. Good question. This one? Hero's cape. It's wide enough to wrap your entire body in, and so long that it almost touches the floor when he's wearing it. Which reminds me, Carmen wasn't wearing a cape either, and that hat was missing too just now. I wonder where those could be. It's a good question. The window I jumped through. Better not try that again, especially not now that the rope's gone. What about this window? It's pretty dark outside. I can barely see anything out there except the black forest around the resort, as well as the mountain lines beyond. I bet the view's quite breathtaking in the daylight though. Alright, well I think we might be out. Hang on, what about this one? Yeah, this is the same again too. Alright, well, I think we're done exploring. I don't really know what else to do. We can check the bodies one more time, I suppose. I don't think there's any need to look at them. Okay. Alright, yep. We'll wrap this one up here, and in the next one we will end the investigation and continue on with the novel part. And we'll see what happens next. We should be able to ring the authorities and everyone comes and no one else should have to die. Except maybe Carmen. We need to stop her killing anyone else at least. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me and I'll see you in the next one.